Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Pitstop Fracas. I'm your host Anik, and we're here to review the British Grand Prix. The Papaya Boys are back. That was a talk of the town when it came to this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, 6th win in a row. Lewis Hamilton, 14th podium. So much to talk about this week. And I am pleased to say I am joined by Laurence, Chris, and Kwame. Let me come to you first, Kwame. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm good, bro. I'm good, man. I just came back from Mayfair from Nobu. I was eating good.
Oh, you're eating good. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I was eating good, man.
Yeah.
The NDV pack has got me. It's got me splashing my money, man. Honestly, man, it's got me enjoying myself.
Oh,
I'm in a good mood.
okay, it's making sense now. Nick DeVries, yeah? Okay.
I hate to be him in it, but the game's a game, man. The original Dutch World Championship driver, man. Hate to be him.
Hey, I'd hate to be the guy that said that he was going to beat Yuki Tsunoda this year as well. Hate to be him. Chris, how's it going, man?
All good over here, out here listening to Schwartzy. So I'm good, enjoying life.
That's good, man. That's good. We'll talk a little bit about George Russell as well. Don't worry about that. Last but not least, Laurence, the man who was there himself. Apparently, Silverstone this weekend was a record. 520,000 fans across the weekend, I think. No, sorry, not 500. 480,000 fans. I apologize. But yeah, how was it, bro?
Honestly, it don't get any better than that. On Ted's notebook, saw Lewis in the flesh, literally a meter away, saw George as well. And obviously the first lap, you would have heard it, that there isn't going to be anything like that again. Yeah, just super special weekend.
Where were you sat on race day?
So we were sat just as they come out of left field. So in Woodcuts are basically it's not really a bend to them. But basically, if you saw where George took Charles, literally as they come out that corner, we were right there, so we could see literally down the Wellington Straight and then whole the way through that complex up to Cops. So you saw it for about 40 seconds.
It's crazy that because you can literally follow right from the start of the lap up until like Woodcote, Luffield, exactly what Lewis and Max done. And no matter what dirty air there is or whatever, it's just amazing that those sequence of corners that you can still follow and obviously make overtakes. You were where else were you then? You were
so on quali day we went down basically to the last corner, so literally as they come onto the main straight, which that was incredible obviously to see when Lando came over the line. He went P1, everyone went crazy. People
so you were there, you were literally there.
Yeah, we're literally there. Yeah, we're basically we were looking at the podium because we couldn't get there on race day. But that was the best place to be on quali day because you could see as they come across the line, you could see all the pit lane, and that corner is like a little bowl as well because you've got club corner which is kind of it bends around the stands, and that the atmosphere is ridiculous. Then on the Friday, because we were there all weekend, we went all around the place. So we were in Beckett's first, which obviously that's the best place to see an F1 car working at its hardest. And then we were down in Cops in the afternoon to see like the F2, F3 qualifying, etc. But everywhere you went, it was packed out. Every single session was fully packed out. So I'm not surprised it's 480,000, but we were definitely the loudest two people after 480,000.
That's brilliant stuff. It's funny you mentioned Maggots and Beckett's because I think you called it on Friday, and we're going to talk about them in a minute. The McLaren was really grippy alongside the Red Bull. What did you see from the McLaren and Red Bull?
I mean,
on Friday,
straight away, straight away. Obviously, Red Bulls come out. Max literally comes out, doesn't even waste any time. He's not even. He gets one sighter lap and then he's on it. It's just so planted. It's almost you can't. I mean, I know some of the guys like Chris went to Bahrain, which is a different nature of the track in terms of you've got high speed, then you've got the stop start at hairpin at the beginning, but the way it just flows through and also you can see the body roll, and literally the Red Bull just doesn't move. It's just dead flat. And the speed it can carry through is ridiculous. But the McLaren is probably even more impressive because it is moving. It was the rear is moving as they're going through the second part. So when they go Beckett's and Chapel, and that was probably the most impressive, more so than Red Bull, because the Red Bull you know it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
But the McLaren instantly within 20 minutes, you know it's going to be up there. If I compare it to like the Ferrari, for example, I mean that was all over the place in the high speed. You can see like, so you go into the first part of that complex, you just downshift once, right? And obviously the sound is amazing, but as soon as they downshift the Ferraris, the rear's going. You can see it, and there's no confidence in there. It's hard to really put into words exactly how you see it. The TV cameras don't capture it as well, just subtle differences between each car. It's definitely the best place to be to really see just the fine details between each car.
So did you know then from Friday that McLaren were going to be up there, or do you just think it was just a Friday flash in the pan sort of thing?
But I think the long run pace you couldn't really tell because they didn't really get much out of it. But you could tell because when they obviously got into the quali sims, McLaren didn't do particularly well, but in the high speed you could see, and obviously given the nature of Silverstone, you can see straight away. So I think we were confident quite quickly that Mercedes long run pace were really good. Red Bull's long run pace actually wasn't that great in practice, and it looked like you had Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull, but you knew obviously Max was kind of he's keeping a couple of attempts in the chamber. The Ferraris and the Astons looked bad from the get-go. They didn't look. There was nothing. They didn't even look impressive. Like you expect F1 cars to, no matter who, even if it's like the Alfa Romeos or something, to look impressive, but they didn't at all. It was like whoa. It was okay. They come past.
Alonso told us Alonso told us 2 weeks ago that he'll be on the podium.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll squeeze him into the loser section.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Come on to him. Kwame, we cannot ignore the performance of McLaren this weekend, man. Like, they ended up P2, P3 in qualifying, finished up P2, P2, P4 in the race. What is going on there? They brought upgrades last race. Norris was around 0.8 of a second, a lap quicker than Piastri. Piastri gets that on his car now, and they're cooking. What's happening there?
According to Lewis Hamilton, they'll go a rocket ship around Silverstone. I think that sums it up. They seem to. So their main issue before was their low speeds. Essentially, that was one big issue they had. That seems to be sorted out. Again, they've had a car that's been very good, high-speed corners, which suits Silverstone, as you saw, it suits them in Austria as well. But yeah, this upgrade they've got is just insane. And I know you're a big man of side pods, Anik, as well. You're a big fan of side pods, but they've got their upgrade more in line with the Red Bull side pod as well. Which, hey, listen, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not gonna pretend like I know, what's happening. But there's been small intricate, details that they've tweaked to the car. New forming as well. All the stuff that they've added to their car. That's just, yeah, they've gone up and beyond. The floor change as well. Listen, they've done what they need to do in it to get to the position, and I was surprised with them. Because my main thing with them was we saw the pace in Austria, but my main thing was we've seen them in the past cook before in high speed circuits, in high corner circuits. I want to see what they do in Hungary in the track where corners are much more slower, a lot more braking, but they have that race pace, especially when they took the risk of Lando going to the hards. And you got Herman Marco came out saying that within 5 laps that Lando's going to catch up with Max if they continue up another 5 laps. So stuff like that is scary in the fact that Lando just goes to Lewis. I'm speechless, to be fair with you, because I didn't see this happening with this upgrade. I thought, cool, that upgrades may do 1 or 2 positions, cool. They'll be a bit more close to Alpine, whatever. But they're actually up there competing with the big boys. It's insane.
Chris, you reckon he's here to last?
I think it will vary from track to track. We'll see next time out in Hungary what it really is. But I know in their drivers, they've got the second best driver lineup on the grid. I'm saying it now. That in their drivers, they've got two guys who can compete and who are cooking. Like Oscar didn't even have the whole upgrade. He only had the side pods. They had the front wing. So, and imagine being they don't having front wing and only being a 10th behind. So, you know that these men are serious drivers and they're going to maximize the opportunities that they have, and that McLaren went out there and fired the people that needed to be fired, put a new system in, and they started cooking. So it's like a thing of it's progress. It doesn't mean they're going to be world champions or anything. It just means they've made good progress and they've taken the step that Aston Martin took over the winter. They've taken it now, and it all looks good because, you know, this is what happens when you hire serious drivers. You get rid of, you know, the fraudulent ones, and you know, get rid of the people holding you back and get serious people in. Like it's about being proactive. They've been proactive. They've had to wait, but now it's all coming together, and they've had their moment in the sun at least.
I think it's funny you should mention progress there because, like, let's be honest, yeah, Mercedes have just taken baby steps. The whole time they've taken the biggest step they've taken, yeah, was getting that race win last year on the back of a Red Bull, you know, messing up their setup. That was the biggest step they've taken. And you know what? That ended up being a step backwards. McLaren have actually made strides. Yeah. If you look at where their car was at the start of the year, I know Professor Mahad will attest to this as well. They started off with a 2022 car in 2023. Okay. And look at the upgrades and changes they have brought to that car. And they are genuinely quick. In my view, that right now, they're genuinely quick. And they're not on par with Red Bull, but they're very close. I think they're closer than any other team has been this year to Red Bull.
I think within a race, yes, but I also think that this is circuit specific. We need to wait for Hungary first.
Yeah.
And also, because right now, let's say they're in the battle with Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari, like where it changes race by race, and it's going to be a bit more of like driver skill and execution rather than necessarily the car itself.
But there was okay. I can see where you're coming from, but I saw little things across the weekend that made me think, actually, you know what? There could be something there. Their drivers qualified P2 and P3. Norris was leading his home Grand Prix. He took it to Max on the first lap. Piastri took it to Max. Both cars literally took it to Red Bull on the first lap. And then even little things like Lando being able on hard tires, fair enough, they were newer, to hold off Lewis on softs and still be quick towards the end. I'm just thinking, you know what? Maybe this car is, you know, hooked up, and look, remains to be seen. But then that begs the question, like, you know, as much as McLaren are doing so well, Mercedes have told us about this B-spec car. You know, they were doing well at the start of the season. They're just giving all of this. It's not good enough. It's just a whole load of bleep. In my view, that's what they're giving. And to see the customer teams doing better than you, like Aston Martin at the start of the season, and now McLaren. I mean, Laurence, how do you reckon that makes Lewis feel at times?
I think you saw. I mean, on his cool down lap after the race, the first thing he came out and said was, "McLaren's a rocket ship." He's not, and that's intentional as well. And he come out obviously in the presser as well, explaining, even in the cool down room, pointing out. And he's doing it deliberately as well. He's trying to point the message, and I think he said something again about, you know, he knows what's needed on that car. He pointed out the fact it looks like a Red Bull, as in McLaren looks like a Red Bull now. And I think he's basically begging them to follow the same suit, because, you know, as you said, those two teams haven't got different engines, same engine, yet how it's almost, I think, a bit of a kick in the teeth that obviously Silverstone is generally been a Mercedes track for the last 10 years. That's Lewis's backyard as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he's more frustrated than he's letting on. The fact that, I mean, not being able to pass Lando on softs with him on hards, and it was softs that actually were like they were barely used. He sat behind a safety car for 5 laps. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty embarrassing. Like to not hang on Lando's tail through the high speed corners, and even down the straights, he didn't have the grunt either to get alongside.
Have you checked the data as well? Apparently, Lando's car in a straight line wasn't even that quick.
No.
So
No.
I think he was the slowest on average. So even then,
and that's the thing. You can see that they're still quite draggy, but obviously that helps in the high speed corners. I think I don't know what more Lewis is hoping to do. He's every time he speaks, he's coming on and saying he knows what's needed. We need to have uncomfortable conversations, he said, as well after the race. And I'm not sure how much longer. Like I say, 18 months now of not listening. And we're getting to the stage where, obviously, last year, for example, Mercedes, turned it around at the very end. But now you've got 3 teams who can truck them fairly easily, track to track. I think Hungary they'll do a lot better though, to be fair, because Mercedes in the low speed corners, which is where we were sat, were the best car on the grid by far. They were quicker than even the Red Bulls there, because when Perez got up to the back of the Ferraris and stuff, he was a bit all over the place there. So Hungary, I think they'll do actually pretty well. I think they'll be stronger than McLaren's, because Lando was saying every time he was in the low speed corners, he's going to crash. So I don't think that McLaren's actually that great on the brakes. So I think, as Chris said, if you get to Hungary and they're at least up there, a couple of attempts off Max, for example, then you've got to say that they're there to stick it out, because they've got then there's 3 different tracks that all have different characteristics, but we're going to tracks like that for the rest of the season, and they're there.
I think let's quickly touch on George before we come on to Lewis's performance in the race. Laurence, did he get the loudest cheer?
George? No.
Yeah, George. No,
he got. Bro, even Albon got more cheers. Even Albon got more cheers, especially at the end of the race. George,
he ain't got the grandstands like that, no.
No.
It's only weirdos like me who like George. Right? It's only weirdos like me that like George. And it was to the point where I was speaking to someone the other day, and then I said that I like George, and they went, George? Like I was scaring the lady folk. I was scaring the lady folk by mentioning George's name. So yeah, this is like he's not got the streets, he's got no one. He's got the sickos like me.
So George qualified, was it 5th or 6th? I think he qualified 6th, right?
6th.
He qualified 6th. He started on the soft tyres. Obviously, I kept one eye on the battle with Leclerc and George. What did you make of that, Chris, at the start?
He got past Sainz, which was important, and then he stuck on Leclerc, and then obviously it was hard racing. Leclerc was a bit over the line, but nothing crazy, nothing where I'm shouting at my screen going, "This is pure terrorism." But it's and then he stuck with Leclerc, and he looked after his tires well. Went nearly 30 laps on those soft tires, which is like no one expected that.
Yeah. Now, do you reckon that's just down to the tire, or do you reckon that's down to George? Because to make those tires stretch, he made the Ferrari that was ahead of him pit early. Really? Well, I don't know if he forced him into that, but it just makes you wonder.
So it's a mix of both, because obviously the tires did last, and like some other people did make their soft tires last a long period of time. That person's now unemployed, but we'll move on we'll talk about that later. But it's the thing of, he looked after his tires well. He had good pace. It wasn't until the pace started falling off a little bit that he went into the stop. So he managed the tires well. The temperature and everything worked in his favor, which is a different problem in itself with Pirelli, because there's no way he should be doing 30 laps on those tires. And it's a case of, he downloaded the tire management pack where you drive at a good pace and you keep your tires together, because that's one of those things that, let's say last year in comparison to this year, where last year I said, whenever I watch him and Lewis like race, I say Lewis always looks after his tires way better than George. And this year, he's looked to improve that, and he's shown that he's improved that. So I'm not mad. It was a good stint on the softs.
I think we'll touch on Ferrari later, but what I honestly think happened in that little period was I think Ferrari thought that George was going to go from the softs to the hards. So they thought, you know what? Let's undercut him. Yeah. So let's make sure we pit early, get on the hards, get a little bit of a buffer there. So the by the time, but George just extended it, and he was fine come the end of it, because then he switched to mediums. Ferrari, I don't know. We'll dive into that.
My thing with that anecdote is that as we got into the race, we later saw that the soft medium was a better strategy, because we realized that the softs were last longer than expected. So,
but the thing is, the mediums were lasting longer.
But every tire lasted longer, and I think it was just Ferrari pitted because what they expected, and they thought that George was going to pit, but the problem was that Leclerc couldn't switch on his tires quick enough to force Mercedes into pitting. So it's like the pace wasn't quick enough. But you're like, it's worth it. So everyone's tires was holding up. Leclerc was slowly building up speed. Then he's stuck in traffic. So he's like, yeah, we're good. We're fine. Tires are fine. Let's keep on going.
But they were just too slow. They were just too slow.
Slow.
So even they definitely tried to predict George going from soft to hards, but
that's what I thought.
It didn't really matter what they did. They were too slow. Like the fact that there should have been a point where, obviously, I can't remember if Charles was on mediums or hards at that time at the start of the race, but there must have been a point after maybe 15 to 20 laps where he should have started to really get a gap from George, and literally didn't go anywhere. So I think they were screwed no matter what. It didn't really matter. They were qualifying, I think, hid a lot of actually how slow they were. So
this is crazy.
I'm glad because I told everyone last week that Ferrari were going to throw up a stinker at Silverstone. I told everyone, I said, high speed corners, we're stinking out the joint. And look what happens. P9, P10, laughing stock.
Terrible.
I told everyone, I'm not wrong on the pod when I say these things. I know my team. Like I've watched these guys. I've been listening to all the sound quotes. I'm on Google Translate translating the Italian, bruv.
Are you onto are you onto what do they call it?
Mozzarella Twitter now.
Mozzarella Twitter. Yeah. We were going to talk about Ferrari later, but we might as well talk about him now. Charles started P4, he ended up P10, so loss of 6 places. Chris, how much of that is down to him? No, he ended up P9. Sorry, P9. Yeah.
So the race, none of that is down to him. Contrary to thoughts of Nam, who likes to blame him for everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nam and Nam alone. I was there going, I was like, brother, you're just watching the timesheets and just your agenda spreadsheet just on the side going, yeah, I can cook. But no. In the race, he did nothing wrong. Like, it's a case of the Ferrari wasn't fast and he couldn't really make the moves because they're not fast in the fast speed corners. And the strategy was conservative and they didn't read the room. Like literally. The conditions were a lot cooler. Tires were going to last a bit longer. Just didn't read the room and messed it up. But on Saturday in quali, he made a mistake, and that mistake took him away from a potential front row start at least.
Mm-hmm.
He said it himself. He's like, I made a mistake. So I think he could have had a bit of a better result. I still think he falls back, but let's say they wouldn't have been inclined to pit it as early as they did if he was up there with the McLarens and Max, just battling them for like 3 or 4 laps, just slowing the pace down completely.
Yeah, I think it was Sector 3 that he lost time under this. By the way, follow Formula Data Analysis on Twitter. That guy, or he or she, they know their stuff because, I always look at their data and it really does come in handy, especially when you're analyzing. But they said that in sector 3. He lost out a lot of time to Norris and Max there. Kwame, let's quickly talk about Sainz, because he benefited actually from the safety car. Ferrari whacked him on hards, and yeah, I think it was one lap he decided to scrap. I don't know. I think it was with Alonso, and then he just ended up losing like 4 places in the space of 2 laps. What's going on there?
So there was one Ferrari driver that if you had to get into Ferrari driver this weekend, like Chris said, it wouldn't be Leclerc, but it would be Carlos Sainz instead. Similar-ish issue in a sense with Leclerc. I mean, with the strategy that happened, but also they were just slow. But he had a lot of. Their main issue was obviously they paired early, they dropped back, rest of the wheel stayed out, gained on that, so they had to climb up the field. When you have to climb up the field, that's when you just his
on hards. He was on hards.
Yeah, his wheel thing there kicked in.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
they should just gambled and whacked him on soft. I'm sure he had his pair of soft.
So what happened is he pitted before the safety car, and then the safety car came out. So they pit Charles, but they didn't pit him because him and his engineer were going, "Shall we pit? Nah, yeah. We'll come out P10 if we pit." He ended up P10 anyway, so it didn't make a difference. But it's just one of those things where last year the safety car gave him life. Today it killed him. So, and it's one thing where he got absolutely munched on by Perez, Albon, and then Leclerc.
Yeah. Didn't he battle Russell as well?
It didn't help him that the other guys behind him had faster pace as well. They just overtook him. And he's just ran down. Like, it wasn't his fault that people say it wasn't his fault that he's gonna overtake him by that pack who were much faster than him.
All right, let's come back to Lewis, the man who 14th podium at Silverstone. That's heritage there. That is heritage right there. He ended up, I think it was like P9 or something during the first lap. You know, got his fair share. Lady Luck played it right, made the right overtakes. Another podium. Talk to me, Laurence.
I mean, even but when Mahad eventually updates, so you'll see it's the first race where all my predictions slapped, every single one, and the one that did it, because usually I let my other half pick the predictions. The one that did it was I put Lewis P3. He ain't gonna let you down at Silverstone. The start was terrible, to be fair. I mean, that was
terrible.
I'm not really quite sure what happened, and I think everyone focused so much on Lando that got lost. But he definitely responded to the crowd a lot, especially after the safety car, which for once obviously he got to benefit because George usually is the one who benefits from that, and George obviously came on the radio, started crying about Lewis benefiting from the safety car, but he did what he needed to do. I don't think it was anything spectacular. It wasn't like one of those drives that I think Lewis will be remembered for at Silverstone, but it was just inevitable. I think
he's just here, isn't it?
The experience just showed, and and I think probably the most impressive part was actually when he got past Alonso, I think it was, which obviously everybody loved that. We loved a bit of that. And then as he gained up on Sainz, I think that was what impressive, because every lap you could just see him taking chunks out, and the crowd respond more and more after every lap, seeing that he was closing up on him. I think part of it is funny because I think everybody at Silverstone loves Lewis, no matter what. Even some of the Dutch fans were loving him. That was the most bizarre thing. Yeah, even some of them were cheering for him when obviously he was coming up to Lando. The bit I think it was a weird experience was that I think because Lewis has been there, done it. He's been on the podium 14 times. He's been on it 10 times in a row at Silverstone as well. I think since 2013, I think was the last one he wasn't on. It was almost like they didn't want him to get Lando, but at the same time, it was a bit of confliction. Like, people were really not sure what they wanted, whether they wanted Lewis second, Lando third. But it's just inevitable. It was. I think the way he celebrated after as well was really quite classy. He made it about about Lando, which I think it was only right because he's been there, he's won it 8 times. So it'd be really nice, I think, next year for him to get a win, though. It'd be a shame if he doesn't get one more at least before he calls time, whenever that is.
Yeah.
But really, really clean performance.
Did he get the loudest cheer?
No, he didn't. Lando actually did.
So across the whole weekend, was it Lando's pole time on Saturday?
It was Land. No, the first lap, Lando's first lap, is what got the loud for the first 5 laps. But I think it's funny because what you're seeing, obviously, with a lot of the younger fans that are there now, they are more geared to Lando than Lewis. Lewis has got a lot of the older heads. A lot of us who've been watching it for 20 years, but a lot of the younger fans, they're all Lando fans. Every single one is Lando fan. They love Lewis, but it's not the same. So Lewis was getting, in the middle of the race, there was periods where he wasn't really getting much love at all. I think just before the safety car came out. But to be fair, the race needed the safety car at that point. It came at the perfect time for him. But Lando got the most love.
Nice. I could run a Lando agenda, but I'm not gonna run it yet. I think I'll just let it happen. Just let it happen. He can have his moment. He can have his time.
That's the
how many points has he got? No. I just want to know.
And Anik speaking. There's no common sense of. It's just vibe.
Okay. How many times has he been on the podium and not got a win? How many points has he got without a win? But we'll pick it up in due course. We'll pick it up. You know what? We'll pick it up one day with McLaren.
I look at this car, but yeah. Let's move
on. Don't worry. We'll pick it up one day with him.
As someone who's invested small amounts of money in Lando for political reasons, I cannot believe this take from Anik. I'm not standing for this.
It's just simmering. Just like the Senna agenda as well. They're both just simmering. I had to put them on the side.
Please.
I've had to put them on the side. They'll come back to the boil soon.
Don't worry, brother. I'm with you with the Senna one. We'll get that guy out of here.
We'll discuss that. Trust me, we'll discuss that. All right, let's talk about Red Bull. I guess we have to at some point, right? Checo. This guy, I don't know what's going on, man. Q1. I just can't sum up what the hell's going on. He's got the quickest car, and again he fails to make it through. Chris, talk to me through what's happening. I mean, you don't mind this, do you? This works for your agenda, right?
Oh, this is fantastic, bro. It's like I get to update every week saying, "Oh, when was the last time Checo got into Q3, bro?" We're now on 5. We're on 5 in the fastest Sunday, car. Like the ones where Max Verstappen just gets pole position with 2 temps just at the end of the session, is going, "Yeah, I'm done." Like easy. Like, I'm not asking man to be on pole. And all I'm asking is to go Q3. Like no recovery drive this week. Just normal racing. He can't do it. And there's no excuse because because Albon put 5 temps on his head in Q1.
Shocker. This guy just can't qualify. I think he's just recovery drive. That's it. He's just recovery drive.
Look, there's a reason why Danny Rick is in that AlphaTauri seat right now.
Yeah.
Like people, like it got to a point where normally, at the beginning, Horner was kind of defending man, like trying to coddle man. Now they're both just there, like, yeah, you got to sort it out, like. And
bro, I was reading today. Yeah, Perez turned around and said, "I know where the problem is." What you realize now?
It's him. He's the problem.
Exactly. He's literally on the F1 website. Yeah, I know where the problem is, and he says he has no doubts that he can turn around this season. I'm sorry, man. He's
making that sound like such a big deal, bro. Like it shouldn't even a terrible lap should get at least into Q2 in that car. There's
nothing to turn around though. You're not beating Max Verstappen. You're just there to be, BP2. Like you just need to just do the bare minimum. Like he's not doing the bare minimum.
But the thing is, I don't know, is because like if you look at his race pace, isn't it? The pace is set in race will get him. in theory, should get him to Q3. So I don't know if there's pressure. But again, his qualifying has always been poor. Like heck, even Stroll, I qualified him when there were times in Racing Point. Master Stroll got a pole position before he did, and Stroll's quality is a bit for Fugazi on his day, yeah, cool, but on his off day, which happens a lot, it's not there. Max's quality work we talked about for on this pod. Okay, cool, it's Max, cool, we get it, but even his quality work is not his strong point. So I really don't know with Checo, and everyday recovery drivers are seeing like, bro, you think we're gonna be clapping you in the back from getting from what P16 to P6? No, we're not, because that's what you're expected to do. You're expected to be there in the beginning. Like, cool, they said there his targeted position was P7. Okay, cool, got P6. Okay, cool. But you should be hiding that. You should be where Lando is. You should be where Lewis is. You should be there amongst the fighting with the rest. And as the regs you see are cooking, the impact of the second driver is coming more and more and more. As what happened in the field, McLaren get closer, Mercedes get closer, and there'll be a point where he'll be a hindrance to the team. Laurence, like you can say, cool, they run away with it, but he's going to be a hindrance at some point.
Let me come to you, Laurence, quickly. The car's quick, yeah, but let's imagine ourselves as a racing driver. Let's put your racing helmet on. What's like the psychology between like being fast across a race and being fast across one lap? Like, is it just a mental thing there that's happening here with Checo? It's just mental.
I mean, because the cars are in Parc Fermé, so they're not that different from race day to quali. They're the same car, bar the front wing. Mm-hmm. It's all mentality. I mean, ultimately as well, when you bottled the last 3 or 4, the reality is you're already on the back foot. He knows that, and yes, also in the race there is no pressure because it's a long run. You're not at 110%. You're not right on the limit. He can drive under the limit, manage the tires like he's good at doing, and he will make places literally by just keeping the car on the track. Whereas in quali, obviously, it comes down to the very minute differences. And you've got a situation now where Williams can get through. Basically, everyone bar the 2 Alpha cars can't get through.
Yeah.
And I think it's like stumbling blocks, just like a domino effect. It had the first one, then the second one, then the third one, and I'm in a rut now. So he's overdriving the car. As soon as you overdrive any car, no matter if it's a F1 car or a car, or whatever, you're finished. You've got to be really in the flow of things, and I think that's it. And also, for someone who's not good at qualifying, you can't overdrive because you're going to make mistakes. And obviously in quali, it's one and done, especially in the final run of Q1 as well. It is, and with the conditions the way they were, it was a one and done, and that's it. Whereas in a race, you've got 50 odd laps. So if you make a mistake, you drop a couple of attempts here, you can gain it back. In quali, you can't. So
what was it? What was it like at the track? Were they expecting it?
Yes,
they're used to it, right?
Yeah.
Honestly,
because the conditions were quite mixed, right? So it rained just before quali really heavily, and as soon as it was mixed conditions, we knew Charles would struggle, which he actually did because he spun in FP3 as well. He struggled at the start of Q1. As soon as it was mixed conditions, I mean, we knew Perez was in a bit of bother, and obviously as soon as him and Albon went out together, you can see Albon was setting at the time. I think I think he did a purple sector 1 and 2. Checo was literally putting up yellows. Yeah, everyone knew that.
I think it's both qualifying. Like, just quickly, like, wasn't it drying at that point? So at the end of Q1 stint, it was pretty much dry anyways.
Yeah, so there was a really dry line, but that was the thing as well. Is really you don't appreciate the wind at Silverstone. The wind is crazy there. So even though the track is drying, in the wind as well, you've got to be super confident, obviously, on your one lap. And it didn't ever look like he was that confident, to be honest. And the thing is, in those cars now, you can really understand confidence, in terms of especially how late they're braking as well. It looks very like pedestrian from him. You can't do that in quali, obviously. You've got to be right on the edge. So it was expected.
It's mad because you look across the carriage, and I've been saying this since the end of last year. Max is bored. He is bored out of his brains. He needs some action. Even in Bahrain, I think something happened with the radio. They told him, like, just chill out. In Australia, he was deliberately going off. In the last race, he was pitting for fastest lap. Even this weekend, I'm telling you, he took his front wing off in qualifying on purpose. The guy is bored. He is bored. And he himself even said, I can win this constructors on my own. I think that just really just puts into perspective. You know what? Like, Checo, time's up, mate. And we might as well talk about the news that happened today, because it kind of does link in with whatever is happening at Red Bull. Danny Rick is back. He's replaced Nick de Vries. Kwame, you said it first. When was it? Was it October 2022?
Some point last year when he was first linked to this driver. I just knew he wasn't cut for it, but hey.
So what do you think about Danny Rick coming back then?
It was low-key expected. So he's been doing some tests in the simulator. According to Christian Horner and Hal Marko, apparently he found his mojo back. Apparently he has a remontada. He also did in the British Grand Prix. He was doing tests with Pirelli as well, and apparently he was lap times are looking good as well. So according to the man Red Bull, essentially according to Hal Marko and Horner, apparently he found his groove back again. He's up for it, and Nick de Vries has been underperforming compared to where they expected to be. And Hal Marko was saying that he should be running the team, which I found very odd and bizarre at the time, and I still do now.
He should be running the team.
Leader,
or number one.
So, number one. So
the
same way Günther Steiner was saying that Hogberg should be leading the team, even though really truly should be K-Max been there longer. Same type of politics that comes in, you know. They bring an experienced driver, and they will say that he should be leading the team to get the young guy, the rookie, or the person who has been performing up in it. But all just to say that he hasn't been performing. Majority of the times in the grid, he's been off his teammate Yuki. Yes, you can say he's having a poor car, but he's been far below standards, and this is like a test year in the sense where Perez has got another year in his contract to 2024, but we all kind of know that this year, his time's kind of up. Red Bull can definitely tell up contracts quite easily. They've got a lot of guys coming in the academy. They've got Lawson, they've got Rassa, both cooking in Super Formula F2 respectively. Yuki's now 3 years in AlphaTauri. At this point, it's even make or break. They're either going to cut him or move him up. So it makes sense from that point of view where they kind of did Yuki compared to NDV to see who's going to get the fit in. NDV didn't cut it. Danny Rick's apparently having the remontada. He knows the team. Let's bring him back for the rest of the season and see how he compares with Yuki and then go from there.
Yep, perfectly put. Chris, sum up NDV.
The guy is 28. He's older than me. He's a big man. When people talk about, he's a rookie and he's training experience. This guy's a Formula E world champion. He's been around. He's been testing all these Formula One cars last year. They had him in every race suit, brother. Williams, Aston Martin, Mercedes. Had him in every race suit. So I'm just there like, you're a big man, 28 years old. You're hired not only to be to set the benchmark for Yuki to beat, but also to lead the team. The way you speak about the car and the team, and he's failed on every objective they've given him. And like last year, he was talking about, I'm ready. I'll lead the team. Yada 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 yada. Bruv, he's just been waffling and been rubbish, bruv. Just terrorizing K-Mag. Like that's all that's the only time you see him.
That's
terrorizing K-Mag.
He does that. That's literally what he does.
Like,
If
you ask someone, you ask people, when you talk about the three rookies, you say, Oscar, you've seen some good races, some good qualifyings there. Logan Sargent, you can sit there and go, in Bahrain looked all right, and Silverstone, P11, improvement. You ask them, what's one good Nick de Vries performance in 2023? They'll be stuttering like they're pressing the DJ button in music class, bruv. Bruv, he's been rubbish.
Laurence, quickly, is Danny Rick gonna dunk on Yuki or not?
Ooh. I hope not. I hope not. I hope not. I can't be bothered to see this guy back. But I hope not. But I think he will.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
Why
he
is
will.
that?
I think
I'm interested to hear.
just. I think he's had 6, 7, 8 months to mope around, get over what happened with McLaren. When he's happy, he's quick. There's no pressure. I don't think there's actually any pressure on him, because if it doesn't work, he's just going to end up in the same situation he was 2 weeks ago. He's just going to be obviously a reserve driver for Red Bull. And I think he's got a long-term plan. He's got a long-term plan, which he's stated quite clearly, is to obviously get back to Red Bull. And I think Red Bull now are probably quite keen on it. So I think he'll really put shift in. And yeah, I just think he is naturally. I think he's quicker than Yuki is. He's got something to fight for now, whereas McLaren, it was like a lost cause. And I think Chris made a good point as well. Sorry, Kwame made a good point with Yuki, and I don't really know what the next step is. I don't really see that there is a next step. So if a driver is something to fight for, is in terms of someone that's just stable, they're going to be quicker 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I speak on behalf of everyone at Red Bull that Danny Rick's ahead of Yuki in order. So I mean, there's no chance Yuki's getting that second seat. I just thought I'd put it out there. Anyway, let's get on to
one thing about Danny Rick and Yuki. I know Kwame's sitting there sweating, yeah, for his Yuki coin. Because if Danny Rick comes back and smokes Yuki, we're putting Nick DeVries in the Mazepin / Latifi category of guys who are just terrible, so just stat pad against them. And then every real test, he's failed. So Lando stock and Oscar stock goes up because them men are cooking in McLarens, and they cooked and Lando cooked Danny Rick. So this is the real test of the Yuki stock, yeah? This is your litmus test, bro. Before you become like the Northern Rock, bro. We're gonna crash. So then it's here to crash your stock, bro.
But this is why I love Chris.
That's what he's here for.
This is why I love Chris. He plans these agendas ahead in advance. Every eventuality, he's still a winner. I love it.
Pretty much.
Let's talk about the winners and losers. Kwame, who's the big? If you had to pick one big winner from this weekend, who would it be?
McLaren.
McLaren, yeah.
Yeah, just both of them. Obviously Lando more than Piastri. Unlucky for Piastri. I don't think we touched him too much, but he got hit by the safety car, and yeah, that kind of he pit before, and that kind of screwed him over. Other than that, he'd probably been on for a podium potentially as well for P3. But yeah, that car, yeah, heaps and bounds ahead of where they were this year. I don't think anyone expected them to be again up there. Again, Lando was up there fighting for a win at one point. So yeah, I give it. And they all both had composed drives as well. No bozing moments. Even the moments where people can say, "Oh, they should push harder." They knew their position. They knew their role. They were happy with their points, and they just stuck with their race and they ran with it. And that led to them to be where they were, P2 and P4. So yeah, both of them.
Lovely stuff. I know, Laurence, you're probably going to say McLaren as well, but I suppose there's an honourable mention for Mr. Alex Albon, right?
That's exactly where I'm going. Well,
I knew it.
I lost my voice. In the stand, right? I was literally the only one screaming for this guy in my whole stand. When he was obviously fighting with Checo and I think it was Charles.
I think.
Mate, I saw that in the flesh. I took that. The other winner, I'd say, I'll go on a different tangents. Actually, just the sport in general. You hear all these, you hear a lot of negativity about the state of the sport and the fandom and all of that. But then you go to the race and literally it's like in a different world. Like it was so nice to not see any Twitter commentary, any of some of the nonsense they show on Sky F1. The sport is healthy. Like there's a reason why that attendance was a record attendance. You had all different types of people there. No difficulties. Like you go to Spa, you go to Zandvoort, and there's like Austria, and there's like racist abuse out there and sexual abuse and stuff like that. So to me, it's just the big win is the sport is in a nice place, despite the fact that there's max dominance. But F1 is always got someone that's dominant. It doesn't change. And a lot of new fans have come in and tried to engineer the sport into something different, when in reality it's still what it's been for the last 4 years, and it's really healthy. So it's really good to see. So I'd say the sport is generally the winner. We're good. We're going to be all right.
Let me ask you a question. Who was the one person you saw that you were not expecting to see?
That's a good question. We
Brad Pitt.
yeah. Well, that was an interest actually. I mean that was just, I didn't know he was part of the film. Obviously, I knew Brad Pitt was there. That was strange. Like see him there, but also on the main stage there, they had the guys from Matt and Tommy, obviously from P1. They had other podcasts. Hopefully, obviously next time might be us.
One day.
You never know.
One
Yeah.
day. We'll
Just to see that. So
on TikTok, bro.
you know,
Give us tickets, bro.
yeah.
Stop the
on,
messages on
we're
TikTok.
waiting for that. We're waiting for that.
That main stage is calling for us. Don't worry. I think that was strange, because you just see, you may have watched them time and then they're just up there with 30,000 people. It's just that was really bizarre to see.
Crazy. Chris, winner?
It has to be, you know what, Lewis Hamilton, yeah, because he went out there and said, "I'm doing safety car and God willing, and God provided, bruv." So
Lovely
that's
stuff.
a winner. That's like he saw what George was doing and said, "Give me that, bro." You know, your little brother has something, and you say, like, "No, I'm taking that." That's what he did, bruv. He just yanked that from just said, "Yeah, that safety car strategy, I'm taking that."
Taking that. Let me stick with you, Chris. Biggest loser, team, driver, anything really?
You know what, De Vries, because them man, AlphaTauri turned down his engine, and said he had an issue, bruv. They lied to him, bruv. They said, "We're fucking you already." They're like, "Yeah, we can't be bothered anymore, bruv." Because he was on the video saying, like, "Oh, we have an issue." They said, "We'll explain later." Then he does the interview and says, "I still don't know what the issue was. They didn't tell me." And now we know they've had it in his P45. So yeah, he's the biggest loser.
You gonna agree with that, Kwame?
Yeah. I'm giving to De Vries all day. He didn't make a whole season. Listen, he didn't make a whole season, and people saying that he's going to get double seat. People was telling me that he's going to play. He's going to outdo Yuki. Hey, listen, my boy's still here. I know the test is down the road. I get it, but my boy is still here. The coin is still alive at this point.
Right, we'll see about that coin. We'll see about that coin coming into the season, man. I don't have Nick De Vries prop, by the way. I just have a Yuki agenda.
Yeah, okay? For no person got Nam. Anyone else, I don't know for them. I'll be honest. I don't know who's going to be prop.
We'll see. Anyway, Laurence, final question. Who was the biggest loser this weekend?
The one that's not got a job anymore.
Simple. Nick De Vries,
the one that's applying for universal credit tomorrow. He's going to be there.
Hey,
Job Centre Plus and that.
So what the only so what we're saying, the only points he got was last year in the Williams, at Monza. Damn.
Yeah, that was by default. Man didn't do any overtaken. Bro, 2 guys above him got penalties that led to him get to. He got P11. Two penalties, P9 stat pad, and just drove. I'm telling you, Albon would have at least got P6. At least. Williams in that straight line speed.
Anyway, man, on that bombshell, I guess we're going to wrap it up there. We'll be back next week with another pod. If you haven't already, please make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Where else are we? YouTube. Oh my God, I forgot to plug the podcast. So yeah. If you haven't already, make sure.
Threads now as well.
On Threads, everything. We're everywhere. Are you looking after that as well, Chris?
Well, someone else made their account. I think I just tweeted the YouTube live link on it. But...
Yeah, Threads as well. So yeah, if you haven't already, please make sure you leave us a 5-star rating on Apple, as well as a 5-star rating on Spotify as well. Keep following us. Keep throwing in your crazy tweets. We'll still keep coming with the good content, the analysis, a few agendas here and there. So yeah, big up to everyone for listening, and yeah, peace.
Peace.